What's good, FOMO fam? It's your boy Isaiah Colbert back with another episode of the Fear of Missing Out podcast, a show where we talk to superfans about niche or popular media and ask what they like about them and where newcomers can get started. This week, I'm joined by Kait Venturina, and she's going to talk to us about Huey, Dewey, and Louie and all things Ducktales. Woooo! Hello, lovely guests. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Of course. Thank you for having me, Isaiah. Hi, I'm Kait Venturina. I'm a film student, and I'm also a voiceover minor. I have just had this fascination for animation for as long as I can remember, probably just, as a kid. I'm a kid at heart, and I hope to be part of animation, whether if it's for writing, directing, or actually show running my own show. Yeah.
Cool stuff, because I know that you're even though you're younger than me, you're kind of my mentor for getting into these kinds of things and all that. It's a side conversation. We don't have to get into it, but I really appreciate you and the work that you do. So I know that one thing that you have really wanted to talk about, and you when I reach out to you to ask if you want to be on the podcast, you're like, hey, we could talk about Ducktales. So I don't know much about Ducktales beyond the theme song that's really catchy and cursory knowledge of it being about Donald Duck's kind of extended family and just the image of Scrooge McDuck diving into a safe full of money. So beyond all that stuff, what is Ducktales about?
Yes. So I've been meaning to talk about Ducktales 2017 to someone just because of how amazing the show is. And it's based off the original series. Disclaimer, I've not seen the original series, but I could tell you just how amazing and just how heartfelt it pays homage to the original, I believe. But pretty much sums it up, I think, when talking about DuckTales. It's basically a in-depth show just about Donald Duck and his extended family and the adventures that they have. What it does is that it pretty much takes the original content of DuckTales and probably Disney's anthropomorphic animal shows and puts them into one whole universe and just expands on that. But it mostly surrounds the McDuck family. So you have Scrooge McDuck, and then these three adorable and adventurous triplets, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, come into his life and revive the spark that Scrooge McDuck used to have as an adventurer with Donald Duck and Della Duck. And pretty much the show just explores that entirely. It's at its third last season. It's actually ending this month, which I am so sad about, but I have high hopes for it as the creators and the rest of the DuckTales crew have been preparing for this ending and have just reassured the fans that everything is going to be okay at the end of things. Yeah.
And so, you said that it was kind of a thing. It's a show that follows the families and their kind of misadventures and stuff. So I was wondering, is each episode kind of a one-off kind of a thing, or is there a continuous sort of ongoing story thread that goes out throughout the story?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. So you pretty much have this overarching plot of whether or not Duckburg is going to be safe or not with the enemies that the McDuck family faces, but you also sometimes have filler episodes where you get a one-off, the McDuck family goes to the city of Atlantis and try to figure out what's going on over there, or they go to see the Olympian gods to see the spirit of Selene and try to find where that is. And I think that pretty much is what each season is all about, while also exploring these different characters. Because I think the problem was with the original DuckTales is that Huey, Dewey, and Louie looked pretty much identical to each other, despite the fact, that they're triplets, but there wasn't really a lot of dimension that went into that. And especially with Webby as well, who in the original I believe so, was like kind of like pushed to the side. But what they did in this reboot is pretty much explore these characters more in depth, make them more dimensional, and so like each season actually explores each triplet. So like season 1 was all about Dewey, the second season was all about Louie, and then the third was like focused on Huey. So you know, each kind of season has their like different focus on that, as well as just even like bringing back like characters that weren't even from Ducktales, but also like surrounding shows that are kind of like similar. So like you have Darkwing Duck or Rescue Rangers, and then just recently they also brought like a really awesome reference to Tailspin, as they brought like the character what's his face? I know he's a bear and he's a cloud kicker.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's amazing, yeah.
Yeah. And so I might consider myself to be kind of like an ambassador for all things anime, but I know that you are kind of like the human embodiment of a signal boost when it comes to all things cartoons.
Yes,
so,
I am.
I know that if you hype things up, it's something that you should be wise to pay attention to. So I was wondering what kind of put you on to DuckTales? Like, what was your introduction to it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, just because, like, for as long as I can remember, I love animation just altogether, but for some reason, like, my lenience is, like, towards cartoons. And, so with that, like, I think it all started when Gravity Falls ended, a really good Disney animated show that pretty much sparked my love for animation. And so once that show ended, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for the rest of my life now? And I was like, no show could just have this heart and this trope of like what it means to be family. And I think that's when DuckTales stepped in. And when I heard about it, I was like, oh, okay, here's a show about a family. Here's the great uncle. And then you have like triplets or twins or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is probably just gonna be like Gravity Falls again. And you know, just watching it, I watched the first episode, the pilot, with my brother, and we both seemed to really look into it, and we're really enjoying ourselves. And so I was like, oh wait, you know, it does remind me a lot of Gravity Falls, just because there's this mystery element and the adventures and just the dynamics that the McDuck family has, similar to like the Pines family from Gravity Falls. But it's so much more than that. It's more than just biological family. It's more like, you know, everyone in Duckburg has something to share, and I think that's what makes them family rather than, you know, just being actual like family, if that makes sense. I think that sense of having a chosen family and exploring these different characters is what makes this like show itself so fascinating. And I think I think that's why I just kind of got into that. Yeah.
We love ourselves a found family show.
We
Those
do.
are always like they're top tier. They're the best. We need them. We need to
we really do.
live vicariously through them.
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask you, because you kind of went into kind of talking about like different aspects of the show that sort of like encapsulate the experience. So I wanted to ask you, like, what is your kind of like favorite moment of the show, and like why, like what are like some of your favorite moments, and like what do you like most about those?
Okay. Yeah, that's a really hard question because I love all moments.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually, you know, when I think about it, I think the thing that really gets me most excited is the fact that this crew just fans. They grew up with these like cartoons and then just brought them to life in a way that they're like, okay, we have these characters, and now what are we going to do to make them appealing to this modern audience, such as myself? Because I didn't grow up with these cartoons, honestly. And what makes me really excited, even though I haven't seen them, is that they're just original. They know what to do when it comes to like these types of reboots. And when I say that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of reboots. We're living in an age of reboots, but DuckTales is an exception of that.
Okay.
Yeah. You have so many talented artists and writers that care about the original material. By the way, the showrunners are Matt Youngberg and Frank Angonis. And
okay, good. I didn't want to have myself like a late Larry King moment where I'm just like, what is the DuckTales? And it's like, well, I'm in DuckTales, Larry. Like,
yes. Oh, Daniel Pudi, amazing. Great stuff. Yeah, you have an amazing cast as well, who just know their stuff and just have a heart and appreciation for this craft. And I think what the moments that I find amazing is that they pretty much take obviously I've been kind of repeating myself, but I think it's so amazing how they just take all these different anthropomorphic animals, characters from Disney, and just put them in one whole universe. I like to call it the DuckTales cinematic universe. You know? Yeah.
And speaking of that, because I know that Disney has obviously a hand in like almost everyone's pie when it comes to creative like properties. So has there been any like crossovers with like maybe some like Marvel people or so, like when it comes to DuckTales stuff, or do they mostly keep it in house on the Disney side of things?
Technically, actually. They actually had Don Cheadle play Donald Duck for like 1 or 2 episodes. Just for like, there's this moment in an episode where like Donald Duck, like, you know his voice. Everybody knows Donald Duck's voice. He's like squawking, and people don't understand him. And sometimes they take that moment and actually humanize like that and try to make sure, why is this important and what's the conflict behind that and how does Donald feel about that no one understands him, like literally. And so what happens is he wishes that he has a normal family. He wishes that everybody just understood him, and that's where Don Cheadle comes in to voice him, to make him sound quote unquote normal. And I guess technically that's one sort of Marvel crossover, but not really. But they kind of stay more so on the Disney side of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least my boy Terrence Howard didn't get the opportunity to another Don Cheadle role that was taken away from Terrence Howard there to voice the most powerful character in Kingdom Hearts. So
oh my God.
we'll F's in the chat for that. Yeah.
Big F.
One thing that I wanted to ask you, because this is always the question that's like you like flip a dime and it can land on either side here. What is the fandom like of DuckTales? Because I know that sometimes fandoms can be like a reason why people aren't really willing to jump into a new show or a new piece of media. So what's the fandom like?
Honestly, it's the most wholesome fandom. The most wholesome fandom that you can find. Not gonna lie, I have not seen anything toxic. I haven't seen anything bad or wrong with this fandom. It's just love all around, because I think, I think that DuckTales has such a huge following, but it kind of doesn't really fall into like the big shows that everybody's like talking about all the time. So it's so hard for me to kind of like talk to like friends and stuff about this show. And I think, it's just wholesome all around. You pretty much have like fan art, people who just love talking about the show, old fans who eventually became new fans, and then, we're just such a small, big, I don't know. We're just a nice community that loves to just like talk about the show and then, just thank the creators. I think, someone reached out to me a long time ago to like write a note to the crew because they just finished probably like their first season or something like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'd love to. And I got to be a part of that. And just remembering that moment, I'm like, oh, yeah, there's something about the fandom just really makes you feel warm inside.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And so what I also wanted to ask you is because there's always that old adage of, well, cartoons are made for kids and so on. And so I wanted to ask you, is DuckTales kind of a show that's like more geared towards like a younger audience, or does it have humor that's kind of suited for maybe some of the adults who might have nostalgia for the older show?
That's funny because I am a huge advocate when it comes to cartoons, and when people have this stigma of saying, why are you still watching cartoons? Cartoons are for kids. And sometimes I want to yell at their faces, but to be civil, I like to say, hey, cartoons are for everybody, and if a show is mostly geared towards to a young audience, I'd like to say that, the show is family friendly. I think DuckTales is definitely a show that has something for everybody. Even though, it's Disney, it's technically rated probably like TVY 7 or something like that. But there's something for everybody. I actually just recently watched a panel of the creators talking about the show, and they pretty much just summed it up and said that this show just pretty much offers something for every person, whether if it's a kid or a new fan like myself, and even old fans, because they literally reference whatever they can, whatever they put into it. Like, they say that each season is like their last. They treat every season like it's their last and put whatever they can in there. Like, they reference the comics, the video games, even Mickey's like Christmas Carol. Like, come on, like that's really, really awesome that they just have the heart and originality for a craft. Yeah.
And so where would you recommend people who are kind of curious to jump into DuckTales to sort of get started? Would you say to start with the show? Would there be any like comics that you'd recommend, or any other kind of medium within the DuckTales cinematic universe that you would recommend for people to sort of dip their toe into DuckTales?
Oh my, yes. Honestly, you could pretty much just watch DuckTales 2017 on Disney Plus without having to really research anything or look into the original show. If you want to understand the references that they put into it and bring like crossovers such as like Darkwing Duck, then definitely take a look at the original DuckTales and Darkwing Duck and Rescue Rangers and Tailspin. I have to do that because I actually haven't seen any of these shows, honestly. I think they're all on Disney Plus, I want to say, but definitely Google search that. I really want to get into the comics as well and see if I can, try to see if I could see if there's any references whenever I watch back at DuckTales. Mm-hmm. But if you really want to know everything, I definitely suggest the comics and video games and whatever DuckTales lore you can find. But other than that, you can definitely just watch the show without having any prior knowledge to it. Yeah. Okay.
Well, this is the part of the show where I open things up to you. So I'm gonna ask you, where can the good people find you on the interwebs? Feel free to plug any of your socials or any projects that you're working on.
Oh, of course. Thank you, Isaiah.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. So my Twitter is HelloCupcake with an underscore. Same thing with my Instagram, but without the underscore. And then on YouTube, I'm under Hello Cupcake as well. I'm also on TikTok with the same name. Just saying Hello Cupcake. Yep, exactly. Gotta be consistent with my work. Yeah, I'm also on SoundCloud if anybody likes to listen to music too. But yeah, I just do music on the side. But other than that, those are all my medias.
Okay, cool. So, now I'd say that has been a podcast. So now the audience knows more than zero about DuckTales. I wanted to ask you right before we close out here. I'm going to put you on the spot here, all right? And feel free to either disappoint me in the audience or or show out, because I know that you also have a really great singing voice. Would you mind singing us off to the theme song of DuckTales?
I had a hunch that you were gonna like ask me in the beginning or in the end of things.
No, I was gonna make it a surprise.
Oh my gosh, yes, I would love to. I was literally singing the theme song beforehand.
Oh, good,
yes,
good. You're already prepped
I was
and ready.
prepared.
All right.
Yes. Okay. Okay, let me get a sip of water. Like.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Boo doo, boo doo, boo doo 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 doo. Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. Might solve the mystery or rewrite history. DuckTales, woo! Every day they're out there making DuckTales, woo! Daring, oh god, tales of daring, do bad, good luck, tales, woo! Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, feel free to reach out to Hello Cupcake or just Cupcake on all of her socials and things. And yeah, be good, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.